Chapter 1: Worldviews and Science. Does the boundary ever become blurred between science and one's worldview? Just like any other group of people, scientists span a broad spectrum of worldviews and religious beliefs. There are top-level scientists who are atheists, agnostics, Christians, and believers of other religions. When communicating with the public, many professional scientists sometimes express not just scientific knowledge of their area of expertise, but also some philosophical beliefs that reflect their personal worldviews. It is very important to be able to make this distinction, to discern between scientific information and worldviews. We should certainly give respectful consideration to statements made by scientists when these statements are about their field of scientific expertise. However, statements expressing a personal worldview do not carry the same weight and authority. Other scientists equally qualified will have different perspectives. And when we are able to clearly make this distinction, we realize that what sometimes is perceived as a conflict between science and faith is actually a clash between competing worldviews. In the next chapter, we will explore the process of science and the definition of science. But before we get there, it is important to note that the scientific enterprise is only possible if we accept some basic assumptions and fundamental beliefs about the world. These assumptions cannot be proved or derived from science alone. So, to start doing science, first we need to believe that there is a physical, real world, an objective reality. The world is not just a product of our imagination. There is a truth to be unveiled. The natural world is rational. Events can be described by relationships of cause and effect. There is order, consistency in the observed patterns in the natural world. You make an experiment today, tomorrow you repeat the same experiment, and you get the same results. Different scientists also get the same results under the same conditions. There is a uniformity in nature, in time, and space. Another assumption is that our minds are capable of comprehending, at least in part, some of the rationality of the natural world. The order we see in nature can often be expressed through mathematical equations. Einstein considered this last assumption, that our minds are capable of understanding the world, one of the most profound mysteries. He wrote, "The most incomprehensible thing about the world is that it is comprehensible." Let's understand better this mystery. There is a rationality in our minds and an order and rationality in the physical world. And the rationality in our minds is able to understand and express the order outside in the world through mathematical equations. How is it that both rationalities speak the same language of mathematics? So we can understand the world. And why is the universe even rational? Let's make an analogy. Imagine that a UFO lands here in the United States and an extraterrestrial comes out and starts speaking in English with us. "Hello, humans. I come in peace." Wouldn't you be extremely surprised if the extraterrestrial would communicate with us with a common language? In a similar way, it is a profound mystery that our minds can understand the order in the world and express this order in a common mathematical language. Now, when we look at these necessary assumptions to do science, it is interesting to think about why these assumptions are valid. Which worldviews can explain them well? Some worldviews are not quite compatible with some of the assumptions upon which science is based. For example, some relativists claim that it is impossible to know any absolute objective truth about the natural world. If no objective reality exists, why would anyone study the natural world at all? Why engage in science? In a polytheistic worldview, some gods may have some disagreements, so we would not likely expect the rationality, repeatability, and consistency that we observe in nature. Concerning the mystery of the comprehensibility of the world, the Christian worldview offers a consistent explanation for that. The rationality of our minds and the rationality in nature have a common origin in the mind of God. In the light of the Christian worldview, it makes sense to expect that our minds can understand the universe. In modern times, it is easy to forget that the Christian worldview made an important contribution to the development of science. The God of Christianity is orderly, faithful, and reliable. So if He is the Creator, we would expect a rational and consistent world. As C.S. Lewis wrote, "Men became scientific because they expected law in nature. And they expected law in nature because they believed in a lawgiver." A theistic Christian worldview also helped to demystify nature. Instead of considering the sun, moon, stars, and the oceans as gods, and worshiping them, they are viewed as created things, and therefore objects of investigation. And this exploration actually allows us to learn more about the Creator who established the natural laws. So the Christian worldview also provided a meaningful motivation for investigating the natural world. Furthermore, many early scientists had theistic worldviews, including some with strong Christian beliefs. For example, Kepler, who discovered the laws of planetary motion, believed that through his scientific investigations, he was thinking God's thoughts after him. Also, Michael Faraday, known for his work in electricity and magnetism, views his discoveries as part of the continual process of reading the book of nature, no different from the process of reading the Bible to discover God's laws. Another example is James Maxwell, very famous for formulating the classical theory of electromagnetism. The minister who visited him before his death wrote, "He had gauged and fathomed all the schemes and systems of philosophy, and had found them utterly empty and unsatisfying. Unworkable was his own word about them. And he turned with simple faith to the gospel of the Savior." Other prominent scientists in history who are known as committed Christians include Pascal, founder of the modern theory of probabilities; Joule, who discovered the first law of thermodynamics; Kelvin, who formulated the second law of thermodynamics; and Leibniz, the inventor of calculus. One of the most influential astronomers of the 20th century was Alan Sandage. He had been an atheist most of his life, but at age 50 he publicly disclosed that he had decided to become a Christian, saying, "It was my science that drove me to the conclusion that the world is much more complicated than can be explained by science. It was only through the supernatural that I can understand the mystery of existence." Some leaders in the professional sciences today are also Christians. The book for this course includes many interviews with some top-level scientists who are committed Christians. We encourage you to read these inspiring interviews, which are living testimonies that one can excel in the scientific career and be a strong Christian. I would like to finish this chapter with an invitation for personal reflection. What is your worldview? How do you respond to the big questions of life? In this chapter, you learned about many popular worldviews in our modern culture. You also learned that scientists hold to a variety of religious beliefs and worldviews. The choice of which worldview to hold is a personal one. No professor can or should do it for you. Often a person is unaware of the worldview they hold. We may use a pair of glasses through which we see our world, but only rarely do we look and examine the glasses themselves. Understanding our worldview requires reflection and examination of our values and belief systems. How does our belief system fit reality? Does my worldview form a coherent picture of the world? Remember that an examined life is superior to an unexamined life. Our failure to consciously choose our worldview assumptions means that we have by default adopted somebody else's. Being able to articulate your worldview is key to having constructive dialogue with others and to understand why people see the world as they do.